Welcome everyone out to our City Council meeting for September 16th. Our start time is 7:03. We appreciate your patience there. Since we've got all of our youth court kids here and several other folks, I just want you to know that we traditionally start our meeting out with a prayer and a pledge. And each month, a different council member will be in charge. So I am now going to turn the time over to Councilmember Dawn Fitzpatrick for that.
Thank you. And I have asked and they have accepted. Last meeting, we did two of our candidates for city council. This time we'll have a chance to hear for the other two that are running for city council. So Jess will do the pledge and then CJ will do the prayer.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we come together tonight. We come together as a community looking towards our leaders for guidance. We're grateful for our leaders. We're grateful for our community. We're grateful for Layton City. Please bless this city, Father, with thy choicest blessings. We know it's through thee that all things are possible, and we're grateful every day for what thou gives us. We appreciate and acknowledge thy hand in all things. And please bless us as we part this evening, that we will go home in safety and we will find all is well at home. And these favors and blessings we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, thank you both, and good luck on the race. Okay, council, we do have a set of minutes that we need to approve. So I'll look for any adjustments to those minutes or action for acceptance.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt the minutes of Layton City Council meeting August 19th, 2021 as written.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to our municipal announcements. And so I think, Mr. Thomas, you probably have some announcements, correct?
Reminds me of school. This is my assignment. Okay. Only I don't get graded too harshly. It says on September 13th through the 18th, the museum, it's called Top of Utah Museum Week. During this week-long event, visit the museum and see our new exhibits. Now, new is a relative word in a museum, so understand that, okay? Scott Carter will be presenting on subdividing Layton. Scott probably subdivided most of Layton in his tenure here. Anyways, at 5 o'clock.
Yesterday.
Huh. Yeah, it says September 15th. It was really good. And for those of you that missed it, you can come back and he's doing another one later on called Putting Back Subdivisions I Messed Up On. So anyway, Adams Canyon. I should look at the dates here. Okay, September 18th. I know that's Saturday. It's an Adams Canyon is having a volunteer service to clean up. So they're going to clean up the trailhead at 9 a.m. So if you feel so inclined, if you're a hiker, go up there and park with 5,630 other people and clean her up. And for those of you that are swimmers, they changed the bubble week. It's from September 20th, which will be Monday, till October 2nd. So they'll be tearing it down, so everything will be closed at the Parks and Rec building. the bubble.
Good.
Get it?
Yeah, you did.
I didn't
And the
see
only
anything
other
on
thing
the
I'd
back,
say is,
so I'm good.
so the museum, that's this week, actually.
Right.
But the museum
Saturday.
is something that you need to go visit
Yeah.
throughout the year. And their hours of operation are on average from 11 to 6 or 11 to 5, depending on the day. And I do know that they do have a new display over there, which is kind of emphasizing, let me think here, the growth of farming in our community, the doctors, the evolution of the doctors, and they've got a lot of old equipment and everything like that. That's kind of fun, and acknowledging some of the history that way. So anyway, there's a couple of new exhibits, and they've got a interaction area for young kids. They've designated a special area, so they've really kind of customized it now for all ages. So anyway, visit your local museum. Okay.
And to go along with the subdivision thing, I attended that yesterday. The museum will have on display the 2 maps that Scott showed. And it was interesting because one of the maps shows all of the subdivisions and the names that we have in our city. But one of them shows how the subdivisions were built based on decade, to watch how the city and Layton, Laytona, and East Layton grew based on decade. And they're really kind of neat maps to watch, or to look at. But to go through and read the names of the subdivisions, I'd forgotten that we have subdivisions by those names, but those maps are in the library or in the museum as well. The other thing for Parks and Rec on Friday night, the 24th at 7:30 p.m. is the Park After Dark. Starts at 7:30 p.m. I've not attended one of those, but if it's anything like our After Dark activities we've already had in the park, it's probably going to be a lot of fun. And then this Saturday at Davis Hospital from 10 to 2 is a Get Ready Fair. September is Emergency Preparedness Month. So there'll be a lot of information on emergency preparedness. It's also suicide prevention awareness. I'll be participating in a booth with that. So it's a lot of fun. And we were joking in work meeting, RC Willie's isn't doing free hot dogs right now because of COVID, but if you go Saturday to Davis Hospital, you can get free hot dogs. So.
Okay, thank you. There's just a couple of more items. So again, this is just our way of letting our citizens know what all's happening within our city and encourage you to get out and enjoy it. But speaking of the emergency preparedness, anybody interested in CERT, certainly we would like to have as many citizens as possible be CERT certified, which means that you're the ones that's going to be the response in an emergency situation. And we have a training that takes place on that. And Natalie Tholman is the gal here at the city that conducts that. And she's doing an online CERT course now. So I think the first one's going to start this Saturday. And I believe starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then again on the 25th. But please reach out to her. Just call the main city number here, and you can register for that. And it's a great course. I've been through it, and believe me, you learn a lot, and it's well worth the time you put into it. And then in addition to that, and the reason why we're making these announcements is because it's the last Thursday of the month here for us. On the 29th of this month, our fire department will be hosting their annual open house out at Station 51, which is the one down on Hillfield Road. And that's a fantastic event to go to. I mean, it's great for the entire family. You guys will learn a lot. They have a lot of booths set up. You can kind of, just learn a lot of different things. And certainly our firefighters do some demos, kind of help you understand what to do in emergency situations as well. So please mark that on your calendar for the 29th. Before I go on with our regular meeting, I feel it would be, there's 2 more items I need to talk about. First off, I need to say thank you to everyone. We had such a tremendous turnout this past Saturday for the National Service Day. And I got to tell you, I think Layton City hit it out of the park. We had a ton of people out there, and we were able to accomplish a lot. And I do know, I personally received probably over 1,000 photos. And I will end up putting those, I'm in the process now of collecting those all and putting them all on one drive for us so that we can all see those. But I was just sincerely impressed and want to say thank you. Thank you for your service to our city, because the city was a beneficiary of that. But yet I really saw a lot of folks come together and make new friends, and the day was just full of smiles. On a more serious note, I do want to talk a little bit about our water conservation effort. Layton City, but early on, we kind of brought it to everybody's attention that, hey, this is going to be a serious year and we need to conserve water. And our citizens have stepped up, and they have continued to step up on conserving water. In fact, we just had a report in our work meeting. And last month, I think we saved, the report was 177 million gallons is what the city's, what our citizens were able to cut back on. And this month, that report, it was it 266? But by the time you back out the EVAP on that, it ended up being another 193 million gallons. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing that, because what we do this year will matter next year. And along those same lines, you've heard of, as far as the secondary water being turned off in a lot of the districts. And this coming Monday, the secondary water will be turned off for any of those folks that are on the Weber Basin line. But the thing that I want to stress here is this is a conservative matter. I mean, the districts have had to turn that water usage off early, which raise a concern for me in the fact that I hope that we don't turn around and use all of our culinary water that we have been so great at conserving. So I'm going to ask our residents and our businesses within our city boundaries to please don't water your lawns. Don't use up that culinary water because you don't have that secondary access now. We need to continue to press forward. This is a serious matter, and what we do now will just benefit us in the future. So again, I'm just strongly encouraging everyone, don't water your yards. It's not necessary. We're into the fall season, and let's just continue to finish up our conservative efforts here. And the way I see it, this is like we've had a home run, or we've had a triple here. Let's now have a home run with the way that Layton has stepped up and conserved water. So I know our council members, they're all in behind this, and you'll probably hear a report, I'm sure, by Councilman Morris and Bloxham. They're very good about putting out our recaps. So make sure you read those as well. Okay, no more preaching. But thank you. What I'm saying is Layton is great. We've hit it out of the park on our service, and we're going to hit it out of the park again on our conservation. We're going to finish it right. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. So this is the portion where you're welcome to come up, and you can go to either side of the podium here. Ooh, excuse me. Well, no. Sorry, I went out of order here, but I'll come back to the youth court. So we're training these kids. But anyway, yes, I'm actually at the citizens' comment portion. So we'll go ahead and hear our citizens' comments. Again, just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Deneen Adams. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at Open Doors. I'm here for two reasons tonight. Number one is to thank you for nominating Richard Cortez as Hometown Hero. He's a volunteer at Open Doors, incredible gentleman, and that made his year. He's still talking about it. And the second thing I'm here to thank you for is your support of Open Doors financially through this tough time. I know you receive all the reports, you see how many people we help, but I'm here to kind of share a story with you, specifically about a woman from Layton. She'd come to us. She's single mom, 2 children. She was working 2 jobs. Right when the pandemic hit, about May, she lost one of her jobs. She couldn't pay her rent, so she came to us. Through the emergency rental assistance, we were able to pay for her rent. At this point, she became involved in what we did, and she joined our Circles program. From that, she was able to get 1 job that she's now making almost double what she originally was. She's upgraded from her small apartment to a larger place, a rental, and her dream is to own a home. And thanks to your support and what you've done for Open Doors, we were able to help her. So again, I know you see all the reports, you see how many people we help, but I thought I'd just like to share that story with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And you do have a great program. And tell Richard he needs to keep that sign up all year.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone else that'd like to make an announcement or a citizen comment?
Good evening. I'm John Lovelace. I live at 1619 East, 2400 North. And I've been a resident of Layton for almost 2 years now, and I love the city. Great city, great. I'm very happy living here. But something I miss from where we used to live in Kaysville, and I've talked to you all online about this, is a glass recycling bin, a drop-off location. When Kaysville City first brought a couple of these out to their residents, I didn't think that my family consumed enough glass for it to be and to make sense to even to have the hassle of it. But we started collecting our glass, and I was blown away. Like our pickle jars and our peanut butter jars and our bottling jars that are cracked, like all of this is recyclable. And we had about 40 pounds of glass every month that we were taking down to the drop-off bin, and there's just something really satisfying at the end of a hard day of work, just smashing glass. As long as you make it in the bin and not make a mess. But I thought, what a great idea it would be to have for Layton City to also do something like this, to have locations that we could eliminate some of our trash and put it to good use. And I reached out to the company's called Momentum Recycling. They're the only glass recycler in the region. And they handle all the glass for Utah and other states. And I asked them, what do they do with their glass? And they said almost about 80% of it goes to Nephi, Utah, to the fiberglass insulation factory. And it gets turned into insulation. I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah. And a little bit goes into like sandblasting and other applications. But I thought that was so neat that glass that's used here, consumed here, stays in Utah, and can be made into something useful and valuable and be put right back into our homes. What a great use of that resource. I thought, can we look into this and see if that's something that's feasible that we would willing to do? Perhaps we could, the costs of having less trips of the garbage truck filling up less, maybe that can be a monetized value to justify the cost of some of these bins. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great idea. Thank you very much. And I'll just comment that, that's how our day of service came about, was just listening to our citizens. So, does anyone else wish to make a comment?
So just a quick question. I probably should know this, but for the hearing later today, is there a chance to have comment, or do I comment now?
So if there's an item on our agenda that you wish to speak on, then under the public hearing, one of those 2 items, then you can wait and speak there. If it's something that's not on here, then you're welcome to.
Yeah, I wanted to talk on the. All right. Well, in that case, since I'm up here, I just want to say thank you. And Tyson Plasto, 2678 West, 1475 North. So thank you. There are a lot of things that Layton does really well, and there are many others that Layton does just incredibly well. So thank you. Thank you all for your service, especially during this pandemic. So I'll come back up during that time. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh. Sorry, you're welcome. I will not cut you off. You're one of our youths. If you
Thank
have a
you.
comment, you're welcome to make your comment.
My name is Kara Baldwin. I live at 2396 Case Creek Drive. I was in a work meeting, and I know that we were talking about the lampposts and how there's a certain area where we can't get the utilities there. So 5 lampposts would cost the same as 21 lampposts in another area. And I was wondering if the city has looked into a solar option. As far as solar goes in Utah, we have a lot of outputs that would do it, and our average light day is more than enough to sustain it. So I was wondering if the city could possibly look into that to be more sustainable and to get the people the light they need. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, I don't want to cut anyone else off, but I'll give the dead silence here. Okay, now that there's no one else, I actually would like to turn the time over to Miss Carlene, and I won't, Kidman, and I can't remember your married name, but anyway, Carlene is a fantastic person here in our city who actually helps with our youth court. And I know that we've got some graduations in that. And Carlene, you're great about informing everybody as far as what all these kids do. So if you wouldn't mind coming up and sharing the time with them. And I do want to say to these kids, though, thank you. Thank you for what you've done for our city. And thank you for being patient. And thank you for being flexible, because I know there's many times when you've had to move around here in order to conduct your business. And we do appreciate that. So, Carlene.
Thank you. Do I need to say my name and address? Okay. My name now is, I haven't officially changed it, but it will be Silito eventually. So I did get married. So anyway, this is our 24th year graduation. And some of you have been around for those 24 years. I know Don was here, and Alex and Gary, and and Dave was around, I think, because when he was around. So anyway, it's been kind of fun. I hope you see how things have changed over the 24 years. You notice we have a smaller group. A lot of the youth take off Wednesdays, have to work on Thursdays. So about half of the youth are not able to be here. We have actually 23 youth that are actually trained right now when these guys are all fully trained. So we have a very small group tonight because it's just really hard to get everyone together. Just wanted to tell you a couple things that have changed over the years. When we first started youth court, the most common case was a truancy case. We haven't had a truancy case in years. The most common case we have currently is possession of marijuana. And so things have changed quite a bit from truancy to marijuana now. We have, with these youth, I could try to keep track of how many youth we've trained. This will make 650 youth in the 24 years that we have trained to actually be part of Layton Youth Court. And as of last count, the youth have volunteered over 40,000 hours of their own time, and then had over almost 6,000 hours of training. So that's a lot of hours for these youth to give back and do for what they believe in and helping other youth. So anyway, I just wanted to brag a little bit about them. I have certificates for the new, and then the ones that are returning, the ones that are here, there's only a couple of them, have some pins we give them for how many years they've been here. So if we can have them, when I call your name, if you can come up, I know you can't shake hands, but they kind of come around, maybe just say hi, and then line up in front of them right here, and I can take your picture real fast, and then you guys get sworn in and stuff. Okay. Does everyone know what youth court is? Does anyone not know what youth court is? And I can explain it really fast. Do you all know what youth court is? Okay, good, because we practice that do our little elevator speech. So I was going to have one of the youth do it, but they get away. They don't have to do that this time. So, okay, I'm going to call your name and come on up. Alex Connors. That way. Ashley Glazer. Dane Brown. Eliza is not here. Isaac Moore.
No. Your start.
Jade Stevens. Jade here. Caitlin Green. Okay, and then let me turn it. Going right back there behind the table, please. Yeah. Okay, a lot of people aren't here. Let's get going here. Let's see. Alyssa, is she here? Ariana Martinez. She's been here. She's finished her first year. Thank you. Okay, back here. Madeline. She's finished her first year. And Majestic finished her first year. And I think I haven't missed anybody else, so. And then when we're done, can we be excused? So, thank you.
Are you downstairs?
No, we're not going downstairs. We're just going to go outside for a minute, so.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna let Mom take pictures.
I'll probably take more pictures than any of them.
Okay, I need you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Congratulations.
I'd just like to thank you personally, Carlene, as well, and all the kids and their parents. They really do a great work.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And they're getting a flyover.
Yeah. Well, there's a louder one even. Hey, we'll give the kids just a minute to be excused here, then we'll continue on. Okay, we'll now continue on with our council meeting. We're down to item number 5, which is our consent item. And we do only have one item today, so I'll turn the time over to Mr. Chad Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The first item we're going to talk about tonight is a subdivision plat amendment. The name of the subdivision plat amendment is Cottonwood Unit 3 Second Amendment. Now, in your staff report, there's a number of subdivisions that are referenced. Whenever we have these plat amendments, it gets a little tricky because there's First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment. But I think just for the sake of clarity and ease of presentation, I just want to go through really briefly and just describe what's happening. I think that's probably the easier way than getting too hung up on the names. But this is the general location of the property shown there on the with the red dot. It's about 1511 North, 2800 East, up near Highway 89. Again, shown in red is the property outlined with that cross hatching through it. This is a subdivision plat amendment. In just general terms, though, the proposal is to take 2 existing lots and create 3. So there are portions of 2 lots. I'm going to just generally outline on your screen the area of the 2 lots. This is the first one, just generally. The second existing lot comes around and takes in the rest of the property. The plan is to take a portion of both these lots and create a new lot that follows. I'm going to just briefly outline on the screen. This is the outline of that new lot. So you'll be taking 2 lots, creating 3. This requires some adjustments to some of the lot lines, requires dividing off that new lot, does constitute an amendment. It will also require the recording of new easements, PU&D easements. That's public utility and drainage easements along some of the perimeters of those properties. The Planning Commission has reviewed this request for this subdivision amendment and is recommending approval. This is just showing that original lot configuration from that other amendment, but they're recommending approval, and we're also recommending that the council approve this subdivision amendment. Thanks.
Council, any questions?
So Chad, I remember this property coming to us when I was on the Planning Commission. So was Amendment 1 the combining of those two lots to start with?
Yeah, there were some combinations that occurred. I think that's what this one shows, is that original combination. It's right in that sweet spot of where I can't see it with the screen up there, but this shows that first amendment. It added this property to that lot, so you can kind of see those two lots that were combined. And then this would be, again, readjusting those property lines to make this and a portion of the other lot into an additional buildable lot.
Okay.
And recording the required perimeter easements on there. Yep.
Anyone else? Okay. Council, I'll look for action regarding our consent item then.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Cottonwood Unit Subdivision Second Amendment, subject to meeting all of the city requirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved in second. All those in favor of amending the plat, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on now to our public hearing portion of our meeting. And we've got two items on here, and we'll deal with them individually, but we'll go ahead and start off with item number A, which is a rezone request, and Mr. Chad Wilkinson will present that to us.
Thank you. Mayor, council, this proposal is, again, as was mentioned, a proposal to rezone some property from CH, which is our highway commercial, to M1, which is a light industrial zone in the city. The approximate location is shown on the screen. It's 613 West, 500 North. The red dot there on the map shows that location, about 11 and a quarter acres, roughly. The property is probably familiar to many. It's west of Home Depot. The property is shown in red, outlined in red on the screen. Home Depot is shown here to the east. Some of the existing Young Automotive Group buildings are there to the north. Walmart just kind of kitty corner to the northwest, and some of the industrial uses there to the west. Along with to the south, one of the existing mobile home parks in the city. So those are some of the surrounding uses. The request is in conjunction with the request by the Young Automotive Group. They are planning to construct their corporate headquarters here in Layton. As part of that corporate headquarters building, they are planning to have a large warehousing component that will accommodate some of their parts warehousing needs. It's a very, very large building. You can see that just conceptual drawing there shown on the screen. It'll be mostly located on the north part of the building. There's an existing drainage facility located on the southwest portion of that lot that'll remain unchanged. Tonight's application is just to consider the zone change. It's not to consider the site plan. That'll go through its own review should the zone change be approved. This request was reviewed by the Planning Commission. I'm going to go back to just that zoning map. This is an area of transition between the commercial uses to the east and some heavier industrial uses to the west. This is in compliance, or it is compatible with the land use recommendation for the area in the general plan, which calls for these commercial areas. This makes that good transition between those uses. This will, again, accommodate what's really a warehousing use for the Young Automotive Group and their corporate offices. And the Planning Commission reviewed this request and has recommended that the council approve this request for a zone change from CH to M1. And I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Okay, any questions?
I had one thought after our other meeting. So the zoning goes with the land. So I'm sure Young's going to go through with what they're doing, but in case they did not, and the land sitting there as an M1, is there anything that's allowed in M1 that could possibly be detrimental to the residences to the south?
It's a great question. That's part of this kind of, I guess, consideration, is making sure we have something that's still compatible with the surrounding land uses. M1 is our lighter industrial zone. So the uses that would be more impactful, like outdoor storage, outdoor manufacturing, those heavy manufacturing type uses that would have impacts on a adjacent parcel would not be allowed in the M1. So it's, again, a good transition between those two zones. And it's a great question. We do need to look at all the possible uses. This is a pending development. We know that this is going to go forward. But yeah, just in case something didn't go forward, you'd want to make sure that that was a compatible zone. But this does make that good transition between the heavy industrial, the commercial, and still provides some protections to those residential properties.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll look for a motion to open our public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so anyone who wishes to speak regarding topic, anyone wishing to speak regarding this rezone request of the Young property, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing that there's none, then council, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing and take action on item number A, the rezone request or ordinance 21-22.
Okay, guys. I'm not doing any more tonight. Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 21, or close the public hearing and adopt ordinance 2021, approving the rezone request from CH to M1, as this is consistent with our general plan. 2122.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's the ordinance. Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. It's been moved in second that we adopt the rezone request. I'll take a roll call vote on this. Councilman Day?
Yes.
Councilman Bloxham?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Thomas?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. We'll now move on to item number B, which is a proposed amendment to the Layton City Municipal Code. And once again, Mr. Chad Wilkinson will present that for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this is an application for text amendment, a city-sponsored application. This application for text amendment is directly in response to some legislation that was passed by the state legislature in the past session related to accessory dwelling units. Going to just briefly talk about these. Sometimes we refer to them as ADUs. That's just that abbreviation of accessory dwelling unit. One of the things that was identified in the general plan was to create opportunities for additional moderate income housing for trying to increase the supply of more affordable units. And accessory dwelling units were one of those tools that were identified in the general plan to meet that need. This was in response to strategies from the general plan that talked about studying the potential of broadening our current definition of accessory dwelling unit. Layton City currently allows for accessory dwelling units under certain criteria. This will be broadening that definition in response to state law, which now requires cities to allow internal accessory dwelling units as a permitted use in their zones. We also felt that this was an opportunity for us to clarify our standards related to detached accessory dwelling units. That would be units that are not attached to the main home, but that can be constructed in other parts of the yard or other parts of the lot or parcel. So we have done that. Again, just this is a subordinate unit. That's just the definition of accessory dwelling unit. It's not a duplex. It is subordinate to that main use of the property, which is a single family home. What key to that definition is that accessory dwelling units require that the owner of the property live in one of those two units, either accessory or primary unit. And that's a key part of making sure that these are still accessory and they don't become their own primary use. Lots of benefits to these types of units. As we talked about, they provide for an additional moderate income strategy for the city. People can rent out their basement, hopefully at an affordable rate to those that are trying to find a more affordable option. Gives extra income for people of all age ranges, potentially. It can also help a person that may have a need for a little supplement to meet those mortgage payments. It can provide that extra income to do that. One big advantage to these types of units is for caregivers that want to have family members that can be located nearby in that same unit or very close by in a detached unit where they can check on them and make sure that they're doing just fine. Also, again, this can be a tool for extended families that have children that want to have their own independent space but be close to parents or other family members. Just want to go briefly through the three types we're talking about in the ordinance. I'm not going to go through the ordinance in detail tonight, but we're talking about three types of units. Internal, which are units that are located within the existing footprint of a home. If you've got a home that you want to put a accessory dwelling unit in the basement or in an upstairs space, that would be within the existing footprint or square footage of the existing home. Attached would be a unit that is built on after a home has been built. It would be something that you can see here in this drawing off to the side or potentially to the rear that's attached to that home. And then detached, which would be something that would be located in a rear or side yard, independent from the home as its own kind of independent space. These are some examples. Just quickly go through those with pictures of those different kinds of units. This is defined by state law, what these units constitute, and given some guidelines for what we can and can't do. I'm not going to go through each of those tonight, but I'm just going to go through very quickly and get to some changes that we have suggested in reaction to your review as the council. We've been going through these standards for several weeks now, and we've given you a draft copy. These are some changes, clarifications that we are suggesting be part of your motion tonight if you choose to adopt these standards. One is to just clarify some standards related to setbacks and open areas and projections of those buildings and how far they can get or how close they can get to property lines. Another related to how we count or calculate the square footage for these attached and detached units and the maximums that are allowed there. And then some footnote and just some general grammar changes that if you can just, they're shown on the screen. If in your motion you can mention that these would be incorporated as part of the ordinance, we would appreciate that, and we'll make those changes before we make this official as part of the ordinance. So with that, I like I said, I'd be happy to answer specific questions about the ordinance. Didn't want to get into too many of those details right now, but happy to answer those specific questions. But maybe after we take some public comment or something, we could also answer some questions. So with that, the Planning Commission did review this proposed ordinance text amendment. They are recommending that the council approve Ordinance 21-23 that makes a change to a number of code sections that are there in your staff report in relation to accessory dwelling units. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions, council? Not, I'll look for a motion to open the public hearing regarding item number B.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody different. Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak regarding the item B that Mr. Wilkinson just elegantly presented to us, then you're welcome to. Just come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
This is John Lovelace, address 1619 East, 2400 North. First of all, I'd just like to say this is a great idea. I've got adult children, and I'm wondering how they're going to afford a house when they leave the house. So anything we can do I think is helpful in that. And I just have a question. How does this work for, does the ADU share the same power meter and water meter as the main unit? And they just share they just share the bill, basically?
Yeah, the underlying premise of these is that they're still part of that main unit. So actually, we would prohibit having separate utility connections. You'd have to still have the same sewer, same water, same gas. It would be the same utility connections.
Gotcha. And if someone wanted to rent one of these out to someone, for money, how would they deal with billing them for utilities, or is that just something they have to work out on their own?
Yes, the second one. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Tyson Plasto, 2678 West, 1475 North. So one question, would it be possible on the ADU to to be disconnected from the power of the main house. For example, it could be powered by solar power with batteries stored inside, or wind turbines or something like that. Is that, I don't know. So that was one thought. Another question I had is, and I found this in August, and I was looking today just briefly before tonight's meeting, and I couldn't find it. But it's my understanding that the backyard has a hardscape limitation of 25%. Is that correct, or is that a misunderstanding? Does anyone know off the top of their head? I guess my suggestion would be, if there is that limitation, that for ADUs that limitation be kind of done away with, so that way you could have a little bit of a larger ADU in your backyard if you needed to, and it wouldn't be so restrictive, especially if you already have hardscaping back there, such as sheds or other things like that. And then there was I was looking at the height. So heights for, I think it was R1, is 16 feet. But for a shed, again, it's my understanding, I could be wrong, the height is 18 feet and 3 feet from the property line. Whereas for an ADU, it's 16 feet and 5 feet from the property line. And I just, I wondered about the difference, and if that, so I'm a woodworker, right? I could build a 200 square foot wood shop in my backyard, 3 feet from the edge, have power out there or solar power out there, not have to worry about a planning, whatever. And it could be 2 feet higher and 2 feet closer to the property line than if I were to do an ADU. So I don't know if there was a reasoning behind the 16 feet. My preference would be to have it higher, to have it coincide with that 18 feet. I would understand maybe that there'd be some justification for being further away from the property line. Maybe there's a greater risk of fire, and maybe that's the same case for the height. But if that isn't the case, then perhaps that could be it could have the same height and property line restrictions as sheds. And again, I could be completely wrong on that, but I think that's it. So thanks.
I'm going to try to answer each of those really briefly, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Mayor and council, just in terms of the last, I'm going to kind of take them from last to first, but that last question, we actually, as part of this ordinance, we are going to make that consistent. So we do have a difference right now in our ordinance as far as heights go. We're, as part of this proposal, and we didn't show all the details of the ordinance on the screen, but we would be proposing that those discrepancies be reconciled. We'd have a 16-foot height limit across the board, even for an accessory structure. So, whether it has a unit in it or not, there would be a height limit that matched that accessory structure height limit of 16 feet. And then we've also done that with the setbacks. So the setbacks have been made consistent. That's in your ordinance on page, page 3 of the ordinance of 2123 shows table 5-1, and that shows where those setbacks have been changed. We've had some of them that have gone to 5 feet for these accessory structures rather than 3. And that's really in response to issues that we've had with encroachments and easements, public utility and drainage easements. So we've made that consistent now at 5 feet, and for whether it has a unit in it or not, a dwelling unit in it or not. So some of this shows that. I want to see if I can get to the table on this slideshow so that everybody can see that, but very hard to see. I probably ought to turn the lights down a little bit or something to see if it's a little bit washed out, but those changes have been proposed here. Still not the greatest. I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit, but that's reflected here on this table, those changes that I just mentioned. In terms of the maximum rear yard coverage, we haven't changed that. We are still proposing or recommending that we have a maximum rear lot coverage standard so that we can still have some open space in these backyards, even with these accessory dwelling units. So we'd still have that maximum coverage standard that would apply. I think those other two answer the setback and the height questions. Which one I feel like I'm missing one though.
Solar.
Oh, solar, the power question. Yeah, thanks. It's a good question. I think the idea behind these units is that they We don't have separate utility connections. I don't know that we've really anticipated someone that is requesting to not have a power connection at all, but certainly they'd still have to be connected to the same sewer, same water. I'm not sure that under their current ordinance that would be prohibited to have just a solar connection out there. It's just they can't have a separate connection is I think the key there. So it'd be connecting to that system, the power system. I'm not enough of an expert on what the regulations are from Rocky Mountain Power or some of these the other agencies, but the idea is that they don't have a separate connection to those utilities. And that's really to keep it. One of the big concerns with these types of units is to make sure that they are subordinate to that primary unit. And if we have separate utility meters, separate utility connections, then they can become their own use.
So Chad, I had the same question that he had regarding the lot coverage, and I had talked to Brandon about this earlier. So our existing landscape ordinance is a 25% can be hardscape. But on this table, it shows maximum lot coverage of a structure can be 50% or 60%, depending on the zoning that it's in. So we put a structure out back, an accessory dwelling or an accessory structure, and it covers 50 to 60% of the lot. But then we have a backyard and we want to put in a fire pit and a pickleball court and all that, and we're restricted to 25%. I think there's inconsistencies. It's still hardscape, whether it's the foundation to a building or other forms of hardscape. The landscape ordinance is at 25 and this one's at 50 to 60% of the lot coverage. So I don't understand quite the differences there.
I think we're mixing and matching, and maybe it'd be helpful if I can see if I can pull up the landscape ordinance to answer that question. But the landscape ordinance has some maximum sod, maximum turf coverage standards. In terms of, there's not a standard related to hardscape. It's a maximum, the turf. When we say maximum coverage on a lot, that's the maximum of all these hard structures. Could be patios, could be driveways, could be roofs. So in this case, the maximum for the landscaping is talking about a different maximum. We're talking about the turf that's allowed in those applications. You can have pervious, and even with our maximum lot coverage, you could have things like rock mulch, drip systems with anything that water can get through. That would include rock mulch and those types of things, and that wouldn't be counted toward that maximum lot coverage standards. A different type of a material there.
So under a landscape ordinance, the way it currently stands, I can't put a concrete pad in my backyard that covers 60% of mine to use it for basketball or parking an RV or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's too much hardscape in our landscape ordinance. But yet I could build an accessory dwelling structure that covers 60% of the ground.
No, you couldn't build an accessory dwelling unit that covers 60. I think that was the concern that Mr. Plasto was expressing, is that our maximum for those hard surfaces would still be 25% of the rear yard.
So what is under, then on table 5.1, when you get to the very last line, under structure height and lot coverage, maximum lot coverage is 50, 60, 70%.
That's right. So that's maximum hard surface for the lot coverage, not for the rear yard. So that's the entire lot, including the home, driveways, any types of structures, not just that rear yard.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So collectively.
Yep.
Okay.
For the whole thing. Yeah. And the rear yard coverage is tied to that, but separate. It's its own standard. You can have up to a quarter of your rear yard in those hard surfaces, including all sheds, patios. Now, again, what we do with the landscape ordinance is give people options. You don't have to have that in turf. You could have that in, planting beds, rock mulch, planting beds, any other kind of pervious material.
So back to Tyson's point then, if my home, if I can have up to a 1,200 square foot accessory dwelling, because that's the maximum detached, and I'm on a 8,000 square foot lot, is that going to conflict then with the hard surface requirements, or?
It'll just offer some constraints. It'll drive the size of what that accessory dwelling unit could be. And the idea is, again, these are supposed to be subordinate. So we're trying to prevent a situation where the accessory dwelling unit becomes the primary use on the lot. And, you're going to have still, especially with detached units, you're going to have impacts on adjoining properties. So the idea is that if we create too big of a unit, either by height or size, then we start to have impacts on adjoining properties that wouldn't be there normally for a single family home. So that it's that balance of trying to provide these additional options while not impacting those neighborhoods.
So in the ADU ordinance, then, as if I come in to apply to build one, I'm looking at the height,
Okay.
and my building meets that. I'm looking at the size, and it meets the no more than 1,200 square feet. But where in this ordinance does it state that I can't cover more than a certain percentage of my lot? I mean, granted, the whole maximum lot coverage, but I can't put my accessory dwelling unit in my front yard. I could on my side, but I can't in my front yard. Most likely it's going to end up in my backyard. And that's a whole nother ordinance that tells me that I can't go over a certain size based on, I mean, this ordinance covers
the rear yard
everything.
coverage. Yeah. It's just a different section of code. It's not in that particular ordinance that you have there in front of you.
Could the reference be made to that in this code?
It's in that same section of code. It's just a different letter. So it's in there.
Okay.
Let me find that number for you, but it is called out in the code very, very near to these standards, but it's just, since we weren't changing it, we didn't provide that. Let me see if I can find that for you real quick.
I'm just trying to think to make it easier on a resident if they're, go on and pull up our municipal code and look at accessory structure setbacks and the height and lot coverage, how high it can be. But the one thing that's missing is, I can build this, and then I come in and apply and find out I can't because it takes up too much of my backyard.
Yes, this is one of those times when having Brandon here as our code expert on this, we would have gone right to it, but it's just going to take me a moment to get there.
Well, if you can't find it, that's just a concern I have.
Yeah, it's
How do you
within
make
that
it
same,
more
it's within that
easily?
same general section of code.
Okay. We know where it is. Brandon knows where it is. But an ordinary resident that wants to build one of these structures pulls up everything else but that based on this ordinance and that table 5.1. So just a thought.
That was your 3 minute.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm going home.
If there are other questions, I've got the search going for that provision right now, and I'll be happy to try to answer those.
While he's looking for that, should anyone else wish to make a comment? This is a public meeting. You're welcome to come up to the podium. Yeah, you can come up to the podium here.
You have to use a different name.
Hi, I'm Paul Plasto. It's my middle name, so it's still true. So just as a follow-up to that 25% in the backyard, I think, we talked earlier, Mayor Petro talked earlier about conserving water. And the way that I kind of view it as, I understand that these are accessory dwelling units, right? They're not going to build your mansion in your backyard when you have the little cottage in the front, right? It's, and I think in the most cases, you've already have a max square footage. I think for the most, I don't know if it's for every residential zoning size, but you've already set that at 1,200 square feet. And I think for most homes, most properties that will even be able to fit an ADU in their backyard, that will cover that. I think you've covered it, ensuring that they're accessory in nature by limiting it to 1,200 square feet, and then also with those setbacks from the other side as well. That 25% just seems it seems sort of arbitrary. I love here's the total hardscape that you're allowed per your residential unit. I love that, because then if you have somewhat of a smaller house, you can still maybe have more room in your backyard to build a little bit. Or if you've already covered that with your main house, then you're not going to plop down lots of hardscape on the rest of the property. I think I would just I would just encourage you, and granted it benefits myself, but I would just encourage you to maybe consider getting rid of that 25% backyard. And if there's considerations about water runoff, then there are other things that can be taken to mitigate that. As far as landscaping goes, to mitigate water runoff. And maybe we consider that, and maybe that's a different ordinance and a different meeting at a different time. But that would just be my thought. Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else wish to comment on the item here? Okay. Seeing that there's none, Don, would you be okay if Chad doesn't quite find it?
I'm called in the big guns. Brandon's available by text, so I'm just waiting for him to give me that section number. But in the meantime, I can speak to the issue before we find that section. The idea is that we are trying to make sure that we don't cover too much of a lot. We want to have some open space. There are aesthetics involved here. There's also drainage concerns. If we cover too much of that rear yard with impervious surface, then we have designed a stormwater system to a certain size, right? And if we start to cover too much of those lot areas with concrete, and once we adopt a standard, it applies to everybody. So you might say, well, this person, he just wants to go a little bit over, but the next person says, well, I want to do 50% or 60% or whatever. So we have to be very careful about creating a standard that allows someone to completely create, impervious surface everywhere in their yard, because our stormwater systems are not designed to accommodate that type of impervious surface and to get the stormwater, into those systems. That would change the whole kind of, I guess, the calculations that have been used to size stormwater systems if we start to say everything can be paved or hard surface. So the idea is that we're trying to keep a balance between allowing people to have structures in their rear yard, but also keeping that open space. And there's also quality of life involved there. Having open space in your rear yard, someplace where you can, go and relax and recreate and have that space for whatever, gardens, pets, whatever, is an important component of a single family neighborhood. So again, I understand the idea, but from that just policy standpoint, it's trying to say, there's got to be a limit that we have that says that this area needs to be kept open. This area needs to be kept aesthetically for open space, and from again stormwater perspective, if we pave everything, we're not sized correctly in our storm design.
That's a good point that he makes, and I have to agree with that one. But anyone else, council? Certainly we can bring this back around for our own discussion. I mean, would anybody else want to make any comments?
So I guess to your point, I did just receive some communication from Brandon, and it's under our accessory use section. So it's right there in that same section of code under number 6. This is 1906-020.6, and I don't know that that's included in this ordinance change because we didn't. Let me see if we can find that section in here though, really quick. It might be. I think like I said before, I don't think it was included in your packet because it was a section of code that was not being modified, but I'll just read it to you. It talks about maximum coverage for accessory structures and uses in residential zoning districts. No accessory building structure or group of such buildings or structures shall cover more than 25% of the minimum rear yard space. And it just says what's counted in that. That's any kind of impervious surface, parking spaces, any kind of hard surface there. So it is in there. It's just, again, it's in that same general section. It just wasn't a section we were changing, so we didn't include it in your packet.
You satisfied?
Yeah, that's great. I just didn't know that it was, like I said, I didn't read the entire 19 point whatever,
Yeah, it's under principal and accessory uses.
So,
yep.
So just a thought. That's a question I brought up to Brandon earlier. We have a public member that's mentioned it maybe in the future when we look at these ordinances, because there are things in here that we weren't changing that could impact, like I said, a citizen going in and picking something out. If I'd have known that, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have asked the question. I didn't know that because I didn't go back and read the entire section.
It's a point,
as it pertains to this.
It's a point well taken. I think you could make a part of your motion, and I would be in favor of this, that we would add that to that same table 5-1, that we just put that standard. Doesn't change the code. It just basically just puts that in a different spot that's right in that same table. I think that'd be a great idea.
Yeah, or even a link to that, because you've got a link to in it for a couple other things, and so
yeah, we like the idea of having all those standards grouped together, and this is a way to cross-reference that for sure.
Okay. Good point. Okay. Council?
I just want to add that what we're talking about here are detached ADUs, which have been okay in Layton for I don't know how long. That's what we're looking at here, these different charts here. But the intent from the state, at least, was internal ADUs and not prohibiting them. And that goes to the need for housing, more affordable housing, I guess, where we get, you mentioned in the work meeting, 8 or 9 requests for detached every year.
That's actually all inclusive. That'll be attached and detached. Yep.
Well, I'm imagining we've got upwards of 15,000 single family homes that are now available to have ADUs, which is a heck of a lot more than 8 or 9 applications. And so that was the intent of this. And we're here talking about detached, but it's an effort, and we're not building anything new. It's within the walls of existing buildings, which is a big deal.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that's just a statement, not a question.
I appreciate it. I just want to add to that statement that we have 2 parts of this. One is meeting state code, which exactly what you said. The other piece, though, we've had detached accessory dwelling units for a long time. They are under that 25% maximum coverage standard today. We didn't propose any change to that. The changes to that particular ordinance are trying to clarify how those setbacks are administered, how far away things can be from property lines. We did note that there was a discrepancy, as has been pointed out, between heights. We're trying to get those to be consistent with this proposal. So it really wasn't changing much, just trying to make some clarifications of what could be and couldn't be done. One other significant thing that I didn't mention before, we've mentioned in previous meetings, is that we are taking these from conditional uses to permitted uses across the board. And that was a request from the Planning Commission. They've felt that this could be reviewed administratively as long as we have a good set of rules that we can have applicants abide by. So again, that 25%, that's not a new thing. That's been on the books for a long time.
Okay. Glad we got that resolved. Okay, Council, do you have any other questions on this? Or
no, I just think
comments?
Thanks for the staff for putting this together. I know that we were, like you mentioned in the work meeting, Chad, that we were kind of ahead of the game, that the legislation that was mandated by the state may have caught some other municipalities by surprise, but we had already kind of put a policy guidelines in effect for quite some time. So we're always trying to balance, the private property rights of the person who lives there, the private property rights of the person who their neighbor, and then hopefully being able to open up additional abilities for people to find housing in an area like the gentleman mentioned. We're trying to find places for kids and college students and people that are just trying to scrounge by. We want them to stay in Layton. We want them, they're an important part of Layton. We want them to live here and work here and grow up here. We want them to build a life here. So I appreciate the staff and all the work you and Brandon did to put that together, because I think it really does find a good balancing between the private property rights and trying to make changes for what the kind of the new world of housing is, and that we are in a major shortage. And if there's a way for us to curb that and curtail that, I think that's what the whole intent, like Clint or Councilmember Morris mentioned, that's the whole intent of this statute, is to try to open up more options for housing. So thanks for making that balance and guiding us down that direction.
Okay, is there any other comments? Okay, seeing that there's none, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing and take action on item number B of our public hearing.
I just have a quick question. There are amendments, right, that we need to read into the motion, correct?
If you wanted to, that amendment we just talked about adding that 25% to that main table, you could add, but these are, if you want to just reference the amendments shown on the screen, I'll put that back up on full screen. And those describe the amendments, and I've already gone through those in my presentation, so.
Okay.
So as part of the motion, Gary, it can just be as explained by staff? Okay, so it doesn't have to be too complicated. Yeah. I'm saying that because I can give you an idea.
One of you better do it.
Okay. So, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Ordinance 21-23, amending Title 19, several different chapters and tables 5.1 and 6.1 and 2, as presented by staff, as well as the changes that were presented tonight by staff to this, and close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Look at that. Finally had a race. Okay. It's been proposed that we close the public hearing and take action on our municipal code changes. So I'll take a roll call vote on this. I will start out with Councilmember Morris.
Aye.
Councilmember Day.
Dave or Dave?
Day.
Yes.
Okay, now Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Councilmember Bloxham.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. You can see that it passed. Okay, that's pretty much concludes all of our items on our public hearing. I do have one thing I do want to mention. I failed to mention earlier when I was talking about water, and I think it's very critical that as we issue this challenge for our residents to please honor September 20th as the day that we'll stop watering our lawns. And should anyone think about trying to connect their secondary water to the culinary water, don't do it. I mean, you've heard it in the news where down south, where some other cities had happened, and just the problems that they had. So I'm just going to just kind of reemphasize the fact you do not do that. Please do not try to cross connect your secondary with your culinary water. You'll just have too many problems there, and it would cause too many issues all the way around. So again, just let's just try to have a home run here on our water conservation, and just try not to water your lawns starting Monday.
And can I add to that? Don't wash your driveway or your gutter or your car. There's a lot of other ways we use our outdoor culinary water in addition to watering the lawn. So please try. And I want to express my thanks because water conservation's been a big issue for me. And I'm just thrilled when I see the numbers of how well the citizens have done.
They have. Excellent. And that's why I got to say, thank you, Layton. Thank you very much for stepping it up. So with that, do we have any other unfinished business?
I have a question.
Sure.
We've had a vacancy on the planning commission here for a couple months. Where do we stand on replacing a new member?
Ooh, Mr. Wilkinson will answer that question.
Thank you. Yes, we have an individual that applied in the previous round for the planning commission position that we've been in contact with. It's just a matter of getting schedules lined up. We've been trying to get something lined up to sit down with that individual, but it was someone that we were very impressed with the previous round. Without having that opportunity to sit down with them, I don't want to give out a name right now, but there is someone that's expressed interest in that, and we need to try to just sit down with them and get a meeting scheduled, and then potentially bring that recommendation for the council. So
very good.
Okay. And along those same lines, I do know that we have a couple of seats that will be opening up on our Parks and Rec Commission, as well as our Ramp Commission. And so the Parks and Rec Department will be putting out a notice on that, and we'll accept applications for those openings as well. So we do have a few things for you to get involved in the city. So again, any other business anybody wants to bring before us?
Yeah, I got another comment. I haven't been there at night, noticed the effectiveness of it, Alex, but I see Sugar Street was all completed and restriped with a turn lane in the middle. I think that will be a benefit, and I was glad to see that.
As soon as the truck drivers figure it out, I have been twice now at night, and they are turning from the lane, not the center lane. They're still blocking traffic. One night I went, there was about 8 of them. They were all parked in the space the turn lane space in the middle that we created, just sitting there idling. They were not even waiting to go into Smith. So I think it's going to take some. My first thought was, is that too sharp of a turn for them? But I've watched trucks do it, so I don't think it's that. I think it's that they just need to know that that's what it's there for. So
hopefully it'll put them there instead of it blocking the lane.
Yeah, that was the intent. So, yeah, that was good, quick action there. And also, not that I want to belabor our service project, but Sugar Street was one of the streets that got cleaned up as well from the citizens. So, again, thanks. Anything else? You got that look? How about making a motion to close our council meeting?
So moved to adjourn.
All right, thank you very much.
I double it.
And it's been seconded. So thank you for hanging in there and for watching this event here tonight. And again, if you can kind of help spread the word, that'd be great regarding our water.